Hello, hello. Good evening. How's everyone doing? It's a big night over here. I'm debuting my new background, which is live, not virtual. It took me a while, but the handyman finally came and repainted the walls and gave me my lovely background. So welcome to my new digs and my new haircut. I cut off a foot of hair last week. Feeling fresh. Anyway, hope everybody is doing well. If you are joining me through LinkedIn, Facebook, I'm on two Facebooks, or YouTube, you are seeing me through Restream. So if you comment, I'll see your comments there. If you're joining me on Instagram, you're getting sort of a side view, behind the scenes look at me going live on the other channels. So if you want to see me direct to my face, come and join me over on one of those other channels. And that's where you can also see the wheel spin. So welcome to Mindset Shifts and the What Ifs. This is a weekly show where I talk about a different topic every week. And the topic depends on me spinning the wheel and seeing what comes up. And it's like this fun little game I'm playing with myself because I created all of the topics. And then I spin the wheel and I get surprised by which topic comes up. Playing mind games with myself to keep it interesting and fun. Anyway, if you are joining, please know that whatever topic comes up, if you have questions or comments or things you want to ask or say about the topic, I welcome your comments. I love a conversation. Would rather have a conversation than a monologue, although I can monologue. I'm all right with that. So let's get started. Let's give the old wheel a spin and see what comes up here. Great. Here we go. Sharing my screen. Cool. All right, let's spin the old wheel. Ooh, stretch projects. Yes, amazing. It's great that I get really excited every time that I know what the topic is, even though I selected all the topics. Cool. So we're going to talk about stretch projects. First, let me introduce myself. If you are new to me, I'm Lauren Lefkowitz. I'm an executive coach, and I believe that fine is a trap. And that fine is the thing that we say we are when we're actually not fine, but we don't know what there is available to us other than fine. And so we say, it's fine, I'm happy to do it, sure I will, no problem. And every time we say that and we actually don't believe it, the threshold for fine goes down. And we're like a little bit less fine with it. And where we would have been fine with, a little thing, and maybe not a big thing, because we keep building up these fines, we're now like, all right, fine is fine is life. So fine is a trap is my tagline. And I also, as I'm getting started, want you to know that I have a free mastermind for women going, and it's called Beyond Fine. It's a mastermind for unstoppable women leaders. And it's free. It's every second and fourth Wednesday of the month at 7 p.m. Eastern time. And there's a link in the chat to register. Next one is tomorrow night. And I hope to see you there. We already have over 30 people registered. And this is the second time we're doing it. First time we had 25 women come, and we had a blast. We had a really fun time and like really rich conversation. It's low pressure. It is catered to introverts, extroverts, and ambiverts. And I hope to see you there. Okay, so let's get into the topic tonight, which is stretch projects. So first, let's define a stretch project. A stretch project is something that is a very corporate term for something that is not in your scope of work and also is presented as or intended to be an opportunity for you to stretch out of the comfort zone of your current responsibilities and do something that's like bigger, better, harder, more. And Oh, Amber's here. Hey, Amber, thanks for being here. You're coming to Beyond Fine. Amazing. Love it. Glad you're here. Doesn't matter when you get here. Just love that you're here. So a stretch project puts you in a position to learn something, ideally. Now, what I call a stretch project and what the actual definition of a stretch project is that sort of classic terminology. What ends up getting called a stretch project a lot of times is anything that's like outside your normal scope of work. And then your boss calls it a stretch project, names it an opportunity, and it is not always one. And so you get to discern when your boss says, hey, I've got a stretch project for you, right? Or your board says, hey, we've got a stretch project for the organization. You get to determine, is that really a stretch project or is that like somebody dumping work on you? And so I'll talk a little bit about how to discern that. Sorry, allergy season. I think it's always allergy season for me, but here we are. So we're going to talk about how to discern what a stretch project is and what work getting dumped on you is. And then we're also going to talk a little bit about how to say yes or no to a stretch project, or how to reprioritize so you can participate in a stretch project. And then like when it's a whole other job, right? So discernment, determining whether it's something you want or something that's being put at you, and figuring out, is this something that you want to do and how do you push back about it? So let's talk about discernment, right? So a lot of times we put like icing on crap, I guess is the one of the terms, right? So we make something look sweet that's actually like terrible. And so some managers, some companies, some CEOs will use stretch project as a way to sugarcoat something that's actually like not something nobody wants to do. But they need you to do it. So they're going to sort of butter you up to do it. A lot of food analogies tonight. And so if you think about, let's say you're a project manager and you are high level project manager. You're managing a project that has like, 50 stakeholders in it. You're reporting to an executive team on it. You're responsible for millions of dollars worth of work. And your boss, who's maybe an EVP, comes to you and says, hey, I've got a stretch project for you. And that stretch project is actually something you've been wanting to learn. It's a new methodology. It's an opportunity to lead not just cross-functionally, but to directly manage people. And maybe you haven't done that before. It's an opportunity to get in front of people to present to. All of that can be really cool and can be a stretch project, because it's above and beyond the typical call of duty. And also it's growth oriented. Now, you may not want to do some of those things, right? And not wanting to do some of those things doesn't make it not a stretch project, but there's some decision making in there. And we'll talk about that next. So a stretch project is meant to enrich you and serve the company, prepare you for the next step. It is a stretch project when it's a one-time or a two-time thing. It is no longer a stretch project when every time that thing comes up, they come to you and they're like, oh, Joey will do it. Give it to Joey. Joey does all the stretch projects. When you do all the stretch projects, you are no longer doing stretch projects. You have added something to your job. Whether that is promotion worthy or not is to be determined, right? Typically, to get a promotion, depending on the company, you have to be doing or taking or like be ready to take on something that's like 25 to 40% bigger, better, different, more than what you've been doing, right? Or you've progressed to that, you've proven yourself. And I'm making a sweeping generalization. Some companies, you have to be doing an entirely different job. Some companies simply don't have promotions. Some companies tick a clock, and as soon as you reach a time period, you go from regular thing to senior thing. So there's a lot of variations. When a stretch project is good for you, it feels good, right? You get a gut reaction, and we never trust our guts. We listen to our gut, we hear it, and then we talk ourselves out of it. So when a stretch project comes your way, you get to think to yourself, how do I feel about it? You get to decide, does this feel like a stretch project or does this feel like a burden? Does this feel like something I'm interested in learning, or am I good where I am? And then you get to have a conversation with the person assigning you the stretch project, with the person coming into the room with you and saying, hey, Lauren, this is a big opportunity for you. Now, whether you can say no or not will depend on the company culture, the need, the opportunity for someone else to do it. Like, there's a lot of factors to consider. But in not becoming the stretch project person, you have the opportunity to ask about the factors and decide whether you're going to accept or set boundaries or ask for something else to be taken off of your plate. You don't just have to say, goodness, boss, thanks for the opportunity, I'm in, right? Turning down a stretch project doesn't necessarily mean you're never going to get promoted. Turning down a stretch project that doesn't resonate with you, that is not at all in the scheme of things that you do, that is clearly someone else's work that's being pawned off because they're not doing the work and you're the cleanup person. Those are all bad reasons to take on a stretch project. Good reasons are you're interested. This sounds neat. It's a one-time thing. It's a path towards promotion. So stretch projects can really be amazing. And I've done some stretch projects in my career. In my corporate career, I did a bunch of stretch projects that got me an in with a parent company, that got me leading a parent company project when I was with the subsidiary company, that got me to expand my role when I was a vice president. I took stretch projects too far, right? That's what a workaholic, people pleaser, high achiever, perfectionist does, is I took stretch projects too far and my hands started automatically going up all the time. And I know a lot of you who watch these videos know that, live that, where you say yes to everything, you volunteer. Nobody's got to volunteer you to do anything because your hand's already up because you feel the responsibility to do the thing and you know how to do the thing, or everything sounds interesting to you for some period of time until it doesn't. So let's imagine together that you've gotten a stretch project, that you have been assigned a project to take on, and it's going to be, I don't know, an extra 10 hours a month. You want to think about a couple of things. One, does that fit in your finite time that you have available for work? So if you're a person who works 40 hours a week and that's your upper limit, or you work 70 hours a week and that's your upper limit, or you work 90 hours a week and that's your upper limit, all of those can work for a period of time. The higher numbers tend to lead to burnout, sometimes not for a really long time. And I know a lot of people, including me, enjoy a lot of hours for a period of time till we burn out. But you have to decide what is your comfort level with how much work you're willing to take on and you're capable to take on before you start burning out, before you start having like diminishing returns on the work that you're doing. Your next responsibility when a stretch project is offered to you is to pause. Anytime we're offered something, and anytime it comes across as an offer that we get that feeling in our body where we think we're supposed to say thank you, or we're supposed to say like, heck yeah. Anytime you have that feeling of like pushed upon you gratitude, you get to pause and you get to think, is this stretch project flattering or a dumping ground? If I am taking on this project, is it going to enrich my career, or is it going to make it so that I am now burning out, overworked, underpaid, etc.? So take that pause, right? When you take a pause, we're not used to taking pauses. It's going to feel icky and awkward, and you're going to want to fill the space with sound. But you get to take that pause. So when your boss or boss's boss or great grand boss, whoever it is, offers you this stretch project, you get to stop and think. You get to stop and decide. You can say, let me think about how I might incorporate that into my work. You get to say, that actually doesn't sound like a stretch project. That sounds like it's Jane's work that I'd be taking on. Like, does she just need overflow work? Because if that's it, like, let's call it that and talk about how long that might be. And you want to be careful of your tone there, right? My tone there was real neutral. If I had said the same thing with a different tone, that's Jane's work. If I'm going to just be doing Jane's work, like, just say it, right? There's a different tone there. So you want to be cautious of your tone, but you get to pause and you get to decide, is this something that's going to grow my career and give me opportunities? Then you get to say, yes, that sounds cool. And also, we have to talk about what's going to come off my plate. We need to talk about how many hours this is going to be, or how much time this is going to be, or how involved this is going to be. Is this a temporary project? Because the word project indicates that there's an end to it. That's important, because if it's not a project and it's a new responsibility, then it's a new responsibility and we need to talk about my salary, right? Heather is joining us on Instagram and says, thank you for attending my TED Talk. This does feel a little bit like a TED Talk. So if you're excited, if it's going to enrich you, if it has a finite end, if it is something that doesn't make it so that you cannot also live your life, you're so bogged down with work now, you can't also live your life. Those are all really loud no's. I've never done the number 4 this way before. It usually goes like that. So you get to factor all of that in, and then you get to ask for what you need. Now, whether you'll get what you need depends on the boss, depends on the company, depends on the job, depends on the need, depends on the urgency, right? It depends on all of these things. But you get to have these conversations. You, in the end, may not have the choice of whether you take the task or the set of tasks or the project on, because decisions get made, right? So sometimes you are voluntold that you're doing something, and that could be a good feeling or a bad feeling, right? That could be, woohoo, you trust me, here I am. Or it could be like, I'm the person who gets assigned everything. So but you do get to push back, right? Sometimes we get these things that are presented as stretch projects, and they are stretch projects. But we don't want them. That's not our ambition. That's not where we want to be helpful. That's not where we want to contribute. We want to save our energy, or we're really enjoying what we're doing, and now we're not going to have as much time for it. You get to have those conversations. Your boss, probably, unless they're like a terrible person, and there are some terrible people out there, your boss probably wants to hear how you feel about having that stretch project assigned to you. And cool, right? Like, I always would want to know, when I was somebody's supervisor, if they didn't like the work that they were doing, if they wanted it to go a different way, if they thought that work was being dumped on them. Like, I wanted to know all of that so that I could help sort it out. If you don't say anything about anything, then your boss assumes that you're happy with how things are going. Now, in the last couple of minutes, I want to talk about what happens when a stretch project becomes part of your job. So you've taken on this stretch project, which has been really cool, and initially had like a 3-month time period and 10 hours a month, and no big deal. And you got to learn new things and be exposed to people in a new way. Awesome. Amazing. Love it. Love it for you. When that becomes, and next quarter, we're going to do it again. And next quarter, we're going to do it again, right? Or when that becomes, you were so good at the last stretch project, we're giving you 6 more stretch projects. And every time you go to a team meeting or a staff meeting or a town hall meeting, somebody says, who's going to wake up in the morning thinking about this? And either your hand goes up out of obligation, or your boss volunteers you in front of everybody. That's when you need to start talking about, is this a different job than it was before? Does that warrant more pay? Or do you step out of that role because it's not serving you, and it's not going to serve the company because it's going to make you want to leave eventually? You always have the right and responsibility to look out for you. Sometimes that ends up meaning that you have to go to a different company, but not always. That's not the assumption. So many people that I see, my clients, people in my community, people that I know, my friends, have left jobs without even talking about these things. And then they find out from their boss, oh, I wish you had told me. I wish I had known, right? Often that's not the case, right? I don't want to toxic positivity this thing. There are times when you've got to leave because it's going to be terrible if you stay, because it's going to be this toxic workplace, or your boss is toxic, or the company culture is toxic, or they do a set of job eliminations and now all the jobs that went away, the work still has to be done and you're getting dumped on, right? So that's not a stretch project. That's a dumping ground. But if you give yourself the opportunity to talk to your boss about what it means to have this stretch project, how it can be productive and rewarding for everybody, and also, when is the end? What does this mean for my future? What does this mean for promotion? Is there a job in there for me? Sort of what's coming next? Those are all questions you get to ask, all conversations that you get to have. And if you're nervous about those conversations, practice them. Practice them with a coworker who you trust, without a complaint session involved, with a like, hey, I want to bounce this off of you because I've got some questions for our EVP about what this project might mean. Can I bounce them off of you and see what you think of those questions? Don't go to the coworker who always says, like, don't complain about anything. Don't talk to anybody about anything, because that coworker is going to talk you out of it. But you owe it to yourself to look out for yourself and to look out for your own best interest. So you get to have those conversations. If there's not a coworker there, find a mentor, find a professional friend outside the company, find a coach, mentor, advisor to talk to, because you will be surprised to learn in a lot of cases how receptive your boss will be to hearing your feedback, to having you offer ideas for reprioritizing so that you're not overwhelmed and bogged down. I'm going to leave you with that. And I will see you all next Tuesday for another edition of Mindset Shifts and the What Ifs. I will also be live tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern with Kat Gentner, who is a graphic meeting facilitator. So she does that cool thing where while you're having the meeting, she's drawing behind you, but she also facilitates. So it's like super cool. So that live is called a meeting that couldn't have been an email or something along those lines. That's happening tomorrow at 4. And then tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern is Beyond Fine. Register. The link is in the comments. And I'll see you around. Have a great night, everybody. And thanks so much for being here.